We'll call tonight's meeting to order, May 7th, 2019. Committee of the whole meeting. Council should have the minutes from the April 16th meeting. Are there any additions or corrections from the Committee of the whole minutes from April the 16th? If not, do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Minutes carry. Any questions on the agenda for the City Manager Buston?
Here, we do have a few items in front of you this evening. The meeting schedule that is in front of you had an error on it. Item number, May 8th. It actually, the original publication said that task force would be at 4 o'clock. So we corrected that to 4:30. And since we were doing the correction, we did not have the short-term rental task force meetings on Friday, so we added those on the 13th and the 23rd. Also in front of you are two brochures from Auburn City Schools showing what they intend to do at Cary Woods Elementary School and J.F. Drake Middle School for the 5 mil fund.
Thank you, Mr. Buston. Any other questions for the City Manager?
Yes, I have a question. I'd like to point out that the minutes from our last council meeting, clearly specified that the council agreed to ask the Planning Commission to consider the amendment. That's a quote from our minutes, and that was in regards to the proposed ordinance amendment that I mentioned about prohibiting ADDUs in and abutting the North College Historic District. It's my understanding that it is not on the Planning Commission's packet agenda, or was not rather, and that it was brought up as new business, and y'all please correct me if I've got this process wrong, but that basically they did not consider the amendment. They simply made comments to the effect that if we had done things differently in the past, they wouldn't have to be worrying about it now. So they failed to do what we asked them to do. So I just like to make a clear point that I don't know how we go about fixing that, but we've sat around for 3 weeks now, and the Planning Commission has neglected to do what we told them to do on that particular item. And Jim, I think you said we have some options of just doing it ourselves or some other procedure. I'm not sure how we proceed and make sure that the Planning Commission does indeed consider what we asked them to consider.
Right. I think the Planning Commission at their packet meeting, when this was brought up to them, their decision was to recommend to council that their original recommendation still stands, and that was in RDD, this type of development should be conditional. I'm not sure at this point where we go from here. I will work with staff to come up with some guidance for you.
So Jim, this was discussed, Forrest, thank you for joining, but this was discussed at the packet meeting on Monday, and the Planning Commission made a decision at the packet meeting.
Yes, I'll let Forrest, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they and this is typically when we've gotten issues that I would consider to be of narrow focus, and I would consider this to be a narrow focus issue, rather than take their time up with a separate standalone work session that I think can be felt, or that I feel can be taken care of in the form of a packet meeting where it's already scheduled. And particularly in this instance, we had a surprisingly brief packet meeting. I just tacked it onto the end, so a lot of the slides that we put together, the maps that we showed this body at that meeting when this issue was talked about, we shared those with the Planning Commission. I explained what the request was, and their feeling was that if ADDUs had remained or had been made conditional as had been recommended by the commission and the staff, that would have effectively been a way and a safeguard to effectively accomplish in a different avenue what I think Council Members Griswold's concern is. And that's why that was the information they conveyed back. And typically what I've done in a situation like that is I just take whatever the Planning Commission tells me and I forward that to the city manager for the council's consumption. I think I may have mentioned this a couple weeks ago. The last example of this I recall was back on the prior council. Councilmember Tremaine had expressed an interest in us developing some regulations to prohibit front yard parking. And that was vetted with the Planning Commission at that time, and it was their opinion collectively that in their opinion, that issue didn't rise to the level, at least as of yet, of needing regulation. And so I put a memo together to that effect, provided that to the city manager, who then provided that to the council, and it did not move forward. There was no further direction or guidance from the council on that particular issue. This would basically be a similar path. That's typically how we've handled these issues in the past.
And Forrest, I'd like to thank you for bringing it up, because obviously, it wasn't on the agenda, and I do appreciate you bringing that up on our behalf. But again, we're not asking them to reconsider something we've already decided. We're asking them for a pretty straightforward amendment, and we even had the wording available for them. And I'd just appreciate it if they would give us the courtesy of making that consideration and letting us know what they think about it.
If in fact what the Planning Commission has done is discuss this at the packet meeting, then you will develop some kind of memo, I'm guessing, that you'll forward to the city manager, and the city manager will get with me and the council, and we'll consider that. Is that kind of the next steps we would?
The next step would be for me to report officially to you from that. Now, again, this is somewhat new to us,
Sure.
So we need to vet this a little bit to see what options we have.
I would like to point out that an additional property within the historic district has had a change of ownership, and it's very near to the ADDUs being developed at the North College North Gay and Drake intersection. So I don't want us to let this slip another 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever it takes before we get around to addressing this and put part of the historic district at risk.
Is that piece of property in the historic district?
It is in the historic district, and it is conditional approval for ADDUs at this point. Okay, that's all I have on that. Thank you.
May I request that, could you give us some guidelines as to what protections the historic district provides for the current homes that are in the historic district with
Right.
regard to not only ADDU, but any other additional?
Right, yeah, and those were things that I hope to bring forward to you, try to give you a whole understanding of where we are on this.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions?
I've just got 2 questions I wanted to ask. I've had a couple of constituents ask me about the assistant city manager position. Kevin has left us, and some people have asked me if there's been a replacement or what the process is.
There will be.
Okay. Do we have a date or anything of?
No.
Okay. And then the second item I wanted to ask about is the dog parks. I've gone back and forth on some emails, I guess, and I just wanted to get maybe some clarification around what you guys are doing. I guess at Kiesel Park, I know we've removed the tub, and I was out there a couple of days ago and saw that there was a big, y'all kind of reworked that area a little bit with some more dirt, and it just seems a little counterintuitive to me that there'd be more dirt versus having some sort of drainage system, and I just was curious what that's about and if there's anything we can do. Or
We're working on some drainage.
okay, when will we see something with that?
I'm not sure that what do you mean, when will we see something about that? I guess I'm not understanding basically, you had complained about a trough. Again,
I'm not.
council as a body wishes to do something differently than what I'm directing staff, then council can direct me as a body to do something differently. But right now, we are looking at that issue that you brought up, and we're attempting to resolve it without having to put the trough back in.
Okay, I'm not against the trough being there. I just think that there needs to be some sort of drainage instead of water just keep on spilling over and over and over into what becomes a mud hole. So that's.
If I may say something, how long has Becky been doing Parks and Rec?
30 or 40 years?
The trough has been there for about 10-plus years. It was donated by some vet students.
Surely you can figure out some way to.
Pardon?
I think we can, yes.
We are grading the area. If you look at it closely, it's sloped to take all water toward the grassy area, away from the dirt area. It also has a rock base, so it won't degrade when people let all their dogs congregate in one place for a long period of time. Also, we are working on a new set of rules based on some things we've seen from other cities that direct you to not let your dogs congregate by the gate, which is what people do. That's one basic rule a lot of other cities have. And we're going to institute some of those rules at both dog parks. If you notice, all of the wear is right there by the gate. It's because people let their dogs stand right there by the gate, and that's where most of the problems happen when new dogs come in. So we're working on it. It'll take us a little bit longer. I want to make sure that we have a little rain and go out there and make sure that all the problems are addressed.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions for the city manager?
I just want to ask the question, back to what Stephen asked, the first question that he asked. You said there will be, what does that mean? I mean, about the city manager.
I will hire one.
Oh, but nobody's been hired. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, we will have an announcement when everything is taken care of.
Okay.
As soon as I can get everything taken care of, we will have an announcement.
Oh, okay.
But yes, one will be hired.
Okay. Thank you.
Anything else? Not, do I have a move to adjourn?
So moved.
Committee of the whole is adjourned, and we'll go ahead and start with the regular meeting. Caitlin? Here.
Dixon,
Here.
Griswold,
Here.
Hovey,
Here.
Martins,
Here.
Smith,
Present.
Taylor,
Here.
Witten,
Here.
Anders.
Here. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Okay, the first meeting of the month, and it's an exciting time for us to introduce you to some outstanding employees that work here at the City of Auburn. And today's, this month's Employee of the Month is Jeff Smith. Jeff? Yeah. Memo from Eric Carson through City Manager Jim Buston for Jeff Smith, Employee of the Month nomination for May. It is my honor to nominate Jeff Smith as the Employee of the Month for May 2019. Jeff was hired by the Water Resource Management Department in August of 2011 as a heavy equipment operator within the Collection System Division. Jeff's normal duties include, but are not limited to, performing excavating, grading, and mulching activities utilizing a multitude of various pieces of heavy equipment for maintenance and construction projects. Jeff is the most senior operator in the department and illustrates superior skills when operating all the pieces of heavy equipment in the department that includes backhoes, track hoes, bulldozers, skid steer loaders, mulching machines, farm tractors, and basically any piece of machinery needed to get a job done. Not only is Jeff an incredible heavy equipment operator, he's also an exceptional employee who enjoys his job and exhibits a positive attitude. He's willing to tackle any project, no matter how big, takes great pride in his work, and shows a strong personal interest in making sure he performs his assignments right the first time. Jeff is also a very sociable employee, and his attention to customer service proves to be a valuable asset to the city when dealing with the public on construction and maintenance projects. He always makes sure the job he is in charge of are completed in a timely manner, and that the site is left clean and aesthetically pleasing condition. The quality of Jeff's work leaves a positive impression throughout the city. Most of these things may go unnoticed by the public, but he is devoted to making the city a better place and making the sewer system the best it can be. When he is not busy maintaining easements with the mulching machine, protecting sewer mains by restoring stream banks, and installing or repairing sewer mains, he willfully tackles new projects and helps other departments within the city. Just a few examples of his most recent work of this nature include helping with the construction and maintenance of the Northside Construction Debris Recycling Facility, assisting the Public Works Department in the construction and maintenance of the material composting pilot project, and assisting the Parks and Recreation Department with a stream bank restoration and landscaping project at the entrance to Town Creek Park. Jeff is an important member of the Water Resource Management Department, a valuable asset to the city of Auburn, a true team player, and provides a positive example for others in the department to follow. For the reasons provided above and many more, I'm pleased to recommend Jeff Smith as the Employee of the Month for May 2019.
Jeff, we appreciate all your good work, man.
Okay, we have a number of service awards this evening. From the Parks and Rec Department, 5 years, Mr. Tim Sylvester. From the Public Safety Department, Fire, 10 years, Jay Gibbs. Also from the Public Safety Fire Department, 10 years, David Tootin. Okay, the next three are 15 years. From the Economic Development Department, Ben McGee.
Here's the welcome back.
From the Water Resource Management Department, 15 years, Matt Dunn.
This also what Ben got right here. Thank you. Appreciate it.
And from Public Safety Police, 15 years, Daryl Downey. Okay, we have a special award tonight, special recognition for our library staff. So Chris Warren, would you and your staff please come forward? How you doing, Chris? The Auburn Public Library has once again been recognized with a Silver Level Standards Award given by the Public Library Division of the Alabama Library Association. This award recognizes levels of excellence attained by exceptional public libraries in Alabama. Public libraries that achieve these standards serve as benchmarks of excellence for other public libraries in the state. At this time, the Gold Level Standard Award is the highest level of achievement attainable, followed by the Silver and Bronze. As a recipient of Silver Level Standards Award, the Auburn Public Library has met or exceeded criteria in several areas, including administration, governance, strategic planning, and budgeting. The library is also recognized for its ongoing commitment to providing our residents with high-quality collections, programs, resources, and services. This is the second consecutive year that the Auburn Public Library has received this distinction. This achievement would not be possible without the hard work and dedication of our library staff and the support of the City of Auburn, the Auburn Public Library Board, and the Friends of the Auburn Public Library. It is also a reflection of the city's commitment to providing great library service to the entire Auburn community. Congratulations. Before we take the picture, Chris, would you like to say something?
Absolutely. As Ron said, this is the second year that we've received this award. It is a real privilege to work with great people like Brandon, our digital services librarian, Ashley, our engagement and outreach librarian, and Leslie, our collection development librarian, several other folks who couldn't be here this evening. In our profession, we sometimes say that a great community deserves a great library, and I think that's really true in a community that's as dynamic and diverse as Auburn. It's a real privilege and an honor to work here.
Mayor, before Jeff leaves, well, he's not listening, but that's okay.
Hey, Jeff, we want to say something else about you, man.
Hey, I just wanted to thank you for the tour that Councilman Griswold and I were on, and for showing us all the great things that y'all are doing, especially at the site off of Richland, and the recycling efforts that you're doing for the department are pretty impressive and innovative, and thank you for that.
Thank you, Jeff. Under Mayor's announcements, real quick, I've got a long list. I'll try to get through these quickly. A couple of Saturdays ago, the Korean Corner on campus had a Korean American grassroots conference, and I was pleased to go to that. It's very interesting to see all the support for the Korean community in our community. City Fest, Becky, I've heard nothing but great things again, and congratulations on another outstanding day, and thank you for you and your staff and for what y'all do on behalf of the citizens. At our last work session on Friday, we had a small presentation with the Green Dot program on campus. Very interested in what they're doing over there and very thankful for what they're doing over there. And without getting into the details, the council will be considering actually going through the training sometime this summer as well. Last night, Councilwoman Witten and Councilman Parsons and I attended the Pharmacy Awards, and they gave the City of Auburn a Friend of Pharmacy Award for our partnership that we'll be serving with the pharmacy school over at Boykin for a project that will be starting here very soon, and we're very proud of that, and this is an award to all of the City of Auburn and the city staff for that, and so we were very thankful. It was a nice reception last night. I want to remind everybody about the Mayor's Memorial Day breakfast that'll be coming up here in a couple of weeks, and encourage you to come to that. It's a very moving and memorable morning. It's $25 for a ticket or $250 for a table, and please come and enjoy that time with us if you're in fact in town that day. I was also able to go to the graduation of the Lee County Young Leaders Program, which is an outstanding program of seniors in our county, of all the high schools in this county. And they had a graduation ceremony a few weeks ago. And next week, Leadership Lee County will have their graduation ceremony. And they've just done a project with the Lee County Humane Society that they had an open house for a couple weeks ago. Two great organizations doing great work. The Alzheimer's Association had a volunteer kickoff a couple weeks ago, and they'll be having a walk this fall. We went to the Benny Atkins Dedication Building, which this council decided to support It's a building in Opelika that'll be a community-wide building that'll be used by many people, but Mr. Atkins was there, and it was a wonderful day that day. 2 weeks ago Friday was the Mayor's Ball on behalf of the Boys and Girls Club, and for all of you that participated, thank you for supporting that. We've signed a proclamation for Child Abuse Month and for Bike Month, and so those are two causes that are important. One's certainly a happy cause, and one is a difficult cause to get your arms around, but it's something we're bringing awareness to on behalf of this city. The National Day of Prayer was last week. That was a great ceremony in front of the courthouse over in Opelika. We've had 5 ribbon cuttings. The Lee Russell Council of Governments is looking for a new executive director, and there's a lot of things going on here in this city. So I just wanted to let you know what the mayor's been up to over the last couple of weeks. Anybody on the council have any reports they'd like to give?
Yes, I have one. I also attended the Alabama League of Cities this week, and it was very informative, and I really enjoyed and learned a lot from it. Only disappointment I had is when it was giving out award to the cities, Auburn didn't get an award. So, but I guess we're going to have to work on that. And also, tomorrow night, me and Kelly is having a neighborhood ward meeting to discuss parking and sidewalks and some other issues. And I just wanted to ask the city manager, were you able to get any of your staff to attend?
I was just made aware of your meeting on Monday, and we already had staff allocated to other meetings, so we have no one for that particular meeting, but we'll be happy in the future if you have a meeting to give us some heads up, and we'll have someone there.
That's all of my announcements.
Thank you, Connie. Anyone else from the council have an announcement they'd like to make?
I have a ward meeting tentatively scheduled for 30 May at the Harris Center, 6 o'clock to Ward 2, and waiting to hear back if the facility is available. If not, we'll relocate somewhere else.
I'm sorry, Councilman, what was that?
30 May. I asked if the Harris Center is available for a ward meeting, and haven't heard back yet. So one way or another, we'll find a place for it, but 30 May, 6 o'clock, Ward 2. Ward
6
meeting.
o'clock?
Yes, please.
Anyone else?
I just want to echo what Mayor Andrews just mentioned about Auburn City Fest. That's an event that I go to every year, and it just gets better and better every year, and I always have a great time, so thank you, Becky.
Good. Okay.
I wanted to acknowledge 3 of the City of Auburn firefighters who over this past weekend went to New York City to participate in the New York City Memorial Stair climb. This event has been going on for several years now. It's co-founded by a former Auburn student firefighter, Chris Barber, who's now an employee of FDNY. And 3 of Auburn firefighters went. Was Tim Henry was one, Lieutenant Bart Rumsey was the other, and Battalion Chief Josh Datnoff was the other. And just to give you an idea, they put on all their bunker gear, including their air packs, which weighs in excess of 70 pounds, and then they climbed somewhere in the neighborhood of 80 floors. And it's a charity event, and the proceeds go to 911 related charities. And just thought it's an incredible moment from a little town in Alabama. Where 3 firefighters on their own dime, in their own time, goes up and acknowledges and lends their support to that terrible event, but making some great connections, and just really proud of those guys. So.
Thank you, Bob. Thanks for bringing that up. Anyone else?
Mayor, we had my Ward 4 meeting last night. It was fantastic. It's fantastic not because of how exciting I was, but because Brian Wood from engineering was there. We've had the opportunity every month. I asked the crowd that's there, hey, who would you like to hear from the city? We've had awesome speakers every meeting. Last night was not an exception. Brian went through all the upcoming capital improvement projects, especially in Ward 4, especially the Antelope Sidewalk project. So that was fantastic. I don't think we've had a meeting since Easter. In addition to City Fest, the Easter event at Kiesel is fantastic. I know that that's probably like herding cats to a certain degree with all the kiddos out there, my kid included. But we always have a fantastic time. I'm very thankful for Parks and Rec and all that they do for that as well, in addition to City Fest. Kind of a smaller scale deal, but still awesome nonetheless. It was a little cold this year. Wanted to also announce, the idea that we came up with from the task force to add some additional stakeholders. With my selection, I've identified I wanted to add Evan Crawford to the short-term task force. Evan is a small business owner. He has 2 young children, long-term resident of Auburn. I think he's going to be a fantastic resource on the task force. I'm looking forward to his input. Also got a couple different meetings. May 13th, we're going to have a work session from the task force. That's going to be at the city meeting room on Teichner from 4:30 to 5:30. Teichner. It's a long day.
New street.
Thank y'all though for keeping me straight on that.
Yes, you're welcome.
Over by the city hall, by a copycat on Teichner. And then May 22nd is going to actually be the second public hearing that we'll have. The first for the work session, the public is invited, but we won't be taking comment. We'll be work session. We'll have a work session with the task force, and then on the 22nd of May from 5:30 to 7 p.m. we'll have a public hearing, our second public hearing to get input regarding the revised proposed ordinance for short-term rentals.
Okay, good. Thank you, Brett.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? Okay. This time we'll move ahead for Auburn University Communication.
One other thing, did you mention about the task force we on? You didn't
I
say
did not.
that. Okay. I wasn't there, so.
We've, the Diversity Task Force had a couple of meetings. We've worked on a mission statement we'll be presenting to the whole task force here pretty soon. And we're working on an event for the fall, and it's really in its preliminary stages, but we're looking at some type of multicultural outdoor event in the fall, and we're looking for locations to do that. But had a great energetic meeting last week about that, so lots of enthusiasm around that. Okay, Auburn University Communications. I know we're between semesters here. Don't know if anyone's here, and I doubt there is. Okay. So we'll move into citizens' communications on agenda items. This is your opportunity to address the council on anything on the agenda. Please give your name and address for the record. Remember, you have 5 minutes. And I ask everyone to be respectful. And please remember you're addressing the council. And so does anyone would like to come forward at this time? Okay. If not, we'll move into city manager's communications.
Mayor, under City Manager's communication this evening, we have the announcement of 1 vacancy on the Indian Pines Recreation Authority. The 4-year term begins June 21st, 2019 and ends June 20th, 2023. This appointment will be made at the June 4th, 2019 City Council meeting. Our second item of business this evening is the consent agenda. Does any council member wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and deal with that item individually?
I believe we talked about on Friday, Mr. Buston, 8E4.
Okay.
8E4.
And also 8E1, please.
And 8E2.
So 8E1, 8E2, and 8E4. Okay, anything else? Okay.
So item 8E1 is
Okay, I got you.
the emergency repair of a transformer that fell at Margie Piper Bailey Park. This happened, I believe it was about 6 months ago, and there was, the stuff that's in a transformer is hazardous, so that has to be cleaned up. While we were not expecting this to happen, so this is a non-budgeted item. Since it's over $15,000, it would normally have to come to council for approval before we expended the money. However, since this was an emergency cleanup, I authorized the expenditure. We just recently got the bill for this. That's why it's taken so long for us to bring it to council, because we just recently got the bill. We didn't know exactly how much it was going to cost. We figured it would not exceed $18,000, and it is $17,857.40.
Thank you, Jim.
My question is, have we determined what the cause of the failure of the pole was? I mean, is it just an old pole, or did it have a...
We believe that there was some tampering by one of the groups that was using the park.
And it was also an old pole, so it kind of...
All right, so this is a transformer on top of a pole?
Yes.
And the whole pole fell down? And you think somebody tampered with the pole and made it fall down?
No, there had been a group that was using the lights and were trying to force the lights on. The pole was an older pole and unstable, possibly, and so they all may have contributed to the fact that when the company went out there to repair the lights, it caused the pole to fall. And so at that point, we had to do the cleanup.
We have a routine inspection of those types of things at the parks, I assume, so
Yes,
don't anticipate that happening again anytime soon.
I certainly hope not.
All right, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Any other questions? If not, do we have a motion to approve?
Move for approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Item 82 is a 3-year contract for pool supplies, pool chemicals for Sanford Pool in the amount of $71,655.
Okay, I'm sorry. Would I ask you to take that off? I ain't got my glasses on, so I thought we were building a pool. I wasn't here Friday for the packet meeting. I didn't realize it was chemicals. I thought we was getting ready to build a pool.
No, this is just the chemicals.
I ain't got my glasses on, so I
It's a
didn't see the whole
multi-year
thing.
expense, right?
It's a 3-year expense.
3.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
All right. Any other questions? Not, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Have a motion second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
And I believe the other one was 84?
Correct.
Okay. Item 84 authorizes a contract with DNJ Enterprises for resurfacing of Lynn Street and Combs Avenue in the amount of $86,984.
Jim, would you just provide a quick synopsis of how the CDBG decision-making goes and how this was determined for us?
I'll let Public Works Director Scott Cummings.
Okay.
And where is this?
Pardon me?
Where is this?
This is on Lynn Street and Combs Avenue.
Well, no, the question is about, it's the...
I'm sorry, did you want to know about the surfacing or about CDBG?
Just how we go about determining what we're going to do with the money and how these were picked out, selected, these 2 roads were selected.
So we analyzed the streets, and that's why.
Yes,
Sure.
okay.
Good.
I'm sorry for the confusion. So for the street assessments, we typically do that about every 3 years. We go through and assess all the streets within the city, and actually we're due for that. So these streets were actually on the assessment and actually on the resurfacing plan that you approved a few weeks ago. And we pulled those 2 off and added them to the block grant program because we had available funds in there, and those met that criteria and the location that they were within the Northwest Auburn area. So that's why those were pulled off, and they also met that budget item for, I think it was, we had allocated $100,000 for that, and obviously we came in under that amount.
And I believe there will be some additional repairs, Scott, to curbing and sidewalk as well?
That is correct. That does include sidewalk repairs for ADA, as well as other curb and gutter repairs that are needed for the street improvements.
Thank you, Scott.
Okay, sorry for the confusion. When will it start?
When is the start date for that?
As soon as we get approved, we'll get the contract executed and go through the pre-con. So hopefully while they're out there doing the other work associated with the FY 2019 resurfacing plan, that'll just the work will basically commingle between the 2 contracts.
We are always at the mercy of the contractor, so we would like to say a certain date, but then if the contractor doesn't get to it, he doesn't get to it. As you notice, there was only 1 bid on this And that's usually the way it is when it's resurfacing. There's always usually only one bid, if any bids.
And Mr. Buston, they are currently working on the FY 2019 resurfacing, and we do have the Sanford Avenue slated to do that during the summer months, so that may affect some of their schedule about them moving around, getting work done, because particularly want to get that one done, when school's out.
Thank you. Any other questions? If not, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Have a motion second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
And Mayor, there's the consent agenda.
Okay. So do you have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Move for approval.
Second.
Have a motion is second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda carries. Okay.
Under ordinances this evening, we have item 9A as the setting of July 23rd, 2019 as the date for seeking voter approval or to issue bonds to finance various Auburn City School improvement projects.
I'll introduce the ordinance and ask for unanimous consent.
I'd like to deny unanimous consent.
So this will come back in 2 weeks to us, Jim, right? Correct?
Yeah, it'll probably come back as a different date, since our options here would be to call a called meeting of the council to handle this as July 23rd. It would be too late for us to do all the advertising if we waited till the next council meeting to get it on the July 23rd date, so that would, the next date we would recommend to you is the August 13th date.
So we could have a called meeting.
We could have a called meeting if the council wished to evaluate just this one item. We would have to do that. I would have to see what our timeframe is. It probably might have to be this week.
I think we should rely upon the experts that are in the business of building schools and capital improvement plans for schools and go off of their timeline, because there's bond ratings and timelines and a whole lot of other things that go into this. And I can assure you that Kerry Woods is in desperate need of this plan, as I can imagine Drake is as well. And I wouldn't want us to be irresponsible in delaying these plans unnecessarily for a date that may or may not have a handful more people to come vote for it, with the likelihood of a very low turnout regardless of the date because of the subject matter.
Mayor, I've just been informed that in order to meet all the advertising requirements and get it to the newspaper to meet their deadline, we would have to have this done by 9:30 tomorrow morning.
I get up around daylight. I'll be there.
We'll go ahead and set a meeting right now?
I don't.
Can we discuss it at this meeting, the different date?
We'll go ahead and can have a discussion right now. Stephen, you might want to say something. You did.
Yeah, I'm the one that denied unanimous consent. I just believe that the date selected, which is July 23rd, is I think it is a bad date for voters. It is in the middle of the summer. A lot of stakeholders, voters are, out of town. A lot of educators are out of town in the summer months. And I think having an election in August when school starts back, all the stakeholders are in town, will have an opportunity to vote. It is a lot of money. It is $46 million. And I completely agree with Councilman Witten. This is a great project. It is, holding this is not, I'm not against the projects here. It is 100% about the voters and them having an opportunity to vote, for all stakeholders to have an opportunity to vote.
Which they would.
I want to.
Hold on.
Go
Just
ahead.
say-
Go ahead.
Yeah, but I want to say this too, Stephen. Even if we choose this date and people know it's coming up and they're going to be out of town, then I think that they can do absentee ballots.
Correct. Let's ask Mr. Buston, what's the policy on absentee ballot for a special election like this?
Yes, we would have absentee ballots ready 2 months in advance, so we would have them ready by May 22nd, and they could vote absentee starting May 22nd all the way through close to the election, I think a week before the election.
So we would not be denying anybody the opportunity to vote?
No, not at all.
And this date, July 23rd, was vetted by people at the school,
Yes, sir.
people at the university,
Yes, sir.
other bodies here in town, and so this is not just a date thrown at a dartboard.
No, sir.
But anything we try to determine by 9:30 possibly could be.
Yes, sir.
What was the opinion or the input from the city, school system and the university?
I believe Mayor spoke with the superintendent.
I did. She certainly would like to see the vote happen on July the 23rd. They're ready, and they do not want to delay this project. These projects, I would say. So they provided this information. What we were provided tonight are all the schematics and all the information on the two projects. That's available now to anyone who would like that. So there's no misunderstanding about what the money will be spent on. It's the two school projects, and here they are right here.
I don't think anybody has any doubt about the worth of the projects and, where the money's going to go. The school system has already known, it was in the legal ads 2 weeks ago. They already put their bids out. So it's not a question of whether or not, we're going to work on these two schools or not. I think at this point, we're at a procedural point of order. We've denied unanimous consent. If we want to consider another date, we can either figure out a way to do it this evening or meet before tomorrow morning. So I think that's where we need to get on with it.
Well, I think Councilwoman Taylor made a good point in the absentee votes, or absentee ballot. So I think that is a viable option for residents if they would like to vote that way. So we can work with the July 23rd date if that is.
So
In my goings around in my ward meetings recently, I had a poll worker who was very adamant that we move it so that university people and people out of town at least have the opportunity to vote. And as I feel doing my due diligence as a representative of the views of those in my ward, I've had most people ask me to extend that into after the summer break has occurred, so that would be late into August. It gives everybody the opportunity to participate, and I understand the absentee concept for sure, but we're also getting very late in May for that. Some people may already have left. I just think, and I echo everybody else's view here that this is a great project, and I don't think there's any opposition to it, but the principle of voting is also something to be considered, that all of us, even if not many people show up, regardless, they've been given the fair opportunity to do so like everybody else here.
When is the deadline for absentee votes to be mailed in? If we were to do the...
Well, if we started them on the 22nd, I think it's the week before the vote takes place. I don't know the exact date, but I think we have to receive them all.
I think it's like a few days before.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a few days before it's time to vote. It's not, I don't think it's a whole week.
It may not be a whole week, and I think we can, depending on when you pick them up and how they come back, they might even be accountable on the day before the election, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So they have to be handed in the day before. If they're mailed, we have to receive them on Election Day.
Well, I certainly
Or later
respect-
than Election
yeah.
Day.
I mean, any council member on this dais has the right to deny unanimous consent, so that is absolutely within our purview, but I would recommend that we have a called meeting as quickly as we can, even if that's midnight tonight, to settle this issue.
So at this point in time, we've denied unanimous consent. So the issue, as we started with this conversation, has been settled. Is that correct, Jim?
That is correct. For
All right, so if
now,
we wanted
the
to
issue would be, do you want to have a called meeting and when?
Okay. And what are our options on having a called meeting? You said it has to be done by 9:30 in the morning?
If we want to get the advertising done for the 23rd election. Yeah, and this is because we have to meet the deadline of the different newspapers.
If we adjourn, can we call that meeting after we adjourn tonight?
You could vote to have a called meeting after this meeting is adjourned. It could be immediately after this meeting. Wait, hang on one second, let me make sure.
That's fine.
David reminded me that we have to give a 24-hour notice of a meeting, so unless it's an emergency meeting, which this would not be, we cannot have a called meeting without giving 24-hour notice.
So we couldn't have a meeting before 9:30 in the morning? Or
Well, we couldn't even, because we'd have to give 24 hours notice, which would be, if we announced it tonight, we couldn't have a meeting till 7 o'clock or 7:45.
how do we determine an emergency?
Pardon me?
How do we determine an emergency?
That's what,
Voting is a pretty fundamental right.
Health, safety, and welfare, correct?
I'm sorry,
Well, how would we determine what an emergency is so that we could call that meeting? Would this fall under that?
override it.
So according to the language in the code is if there is harm or potential harm to property or a person.
Okay, so this has been determined then tonight. We've denied unanimous consent, and so we'll consider it again in 2 weeks and for a date that'll be in August. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Based on
what we would recommend then, again, would be August 13th.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Those are all the items we have on the agenda this evening, Mayor.
I'd just like to reiterate one thing.
Sure.
You made comments going both directions there.
I did.
So you have, your denial of unanimous consent is still in effect?
Yes.
Yes, okay, all right. And is there no possible way for us to amend what's in front of us with a date change?
I don't think.
Without another meeting?
Has to be publicized.
Okay, all right. Okay.
Okay, at this point in time, we'll have citizens open forum. This is an opportunity for you as a citizen to address the council. You have 3 minutes to address the council. Please give your name and address for the record. Please be respectful, and please remember that you are addressing the council at this time.
Lindbergh B. Jackson, 814 North College. I want to say something about the resurfacing of Lynn and Combs. Monies in the CDGB budget seems to be very tight. There are several needs in Northwest Auburn, and taking that $71,000 and applying it to resurfacing, I think it's, in the future, I think that we have a great need for housing. We have a great need to stimulate developers and builders to come to Northwest Auburn. So if in the future, when you're allocating money, I don't know how it's structured in the proposal where the money is supposed to be spent, whether there has to be money on streets or what have you. But just say John Doe want to develop in Northwest Auburn. The property in Northwest Auburn does not appraise and does not bring the value that Grove Hill and other properties, but it costs the developer the same amount of money to develop a street, put in water, put in sewer. So as an incentive, it would help if some of that money could be earmarked and put toward attracting a developer to come in and to do the infrastructure as far as developing low-cost housing, if he says that I'm going to use a price point of X amount of dollars. So that $71,000, just say myself, my family has a property over there, but if we started to develop that property today, we're in the hundreds in terms of infrastructure. So if we could look at that from an incentive standpoint in the future, that would certainly inspire me to try and develop property that would bring in a low-cost housing. And also, I just want to say this, changing the subject, that I'm very, very adamant and serious, and I've spoken with Councilman Taylor about this, about that soccer field and the progressing of the walking trails and everything that's going to be in the Sam Harris area. I asked that there be a phase 1 and possibly a phase 2 done, because those areas was several years ago landfills. So I would like to ask the council if they would, if they hadn't, and not Beth, but our Parks and Recreation Director to let me and Councilman Taylor or someone know what the plans are, because there's several hazardous looking areas out there along the streams and in the ground where there might be some contaminated stuff going on. But just if you would, in the future, look at what it would take to stimulate a developer or builder to come into the Northwest Auburn area. Thank you.
Can I just say something? Sure. Okay. To address that, I would like to know from Mr. Davis, because when we did the community meeting, that money was already spent, and there was areas that where y'all was going to resurface the roads. So I'm trying to figure out, and I'm with Mr. Jackson, how did you incorporate those streets into that? So are you taking away from some of the roads that you're already going to do? And I'm also concerned, even when the subject came up and I looked at it, the block money was for resurfacing and stuff, but you already had areas picked out at the time. So how did you come up with adding 2 more areas in?
Yeah, some of the block grant funding is for projects like resurfacing.
I got that.
And whether these 2 projects, and I'll let Director Davis talk in a second, but I'm not sure whether these 2 projects were on the original set of projects that were advertised or not, but there are certain funds in the CDBG program that are for this and aren't used for other things. But let Director Davis.
The CDBG program, we have in place what we call a consolidated plan, which covers a 5-year period. When the consolidated plan was done in 2015 to 2019, it went through a whole process of the community's involvement. So the citizens were involved in the process and determined which projects was going to be done under the CDBG program. And one of the things they specified as we went through that process is street resurfacing was one of their top priorities, in addition to housing and public service and a variety of other items that comes under the CDBG program. So street resurfacing is one of the priorities of the CDBG program during that 5-year period. So that way, that's the reason why there's funds set aside in each of the program years for street resurfacing, because it was one of the top priorities. Now, as to which streets are selected, that's when we work internally with our Public Works Department and Engineering to determine which streets that's already in their ranking order, and then we select those streets as the ones that we're going to do in each of the program years.
Okay, and I understand that, but at the community meeting, those streets was already picked out. You already gave us a list of streets that was going to be resurfaced.
Each year, we're going to have a whole different set of streets. Like, we already have a good idea of which streets that we're going to resurface this coming year. We already have an idea of which streets are going to be resurfaced. And we, again, work with staff to see which streets are on the priority list and then select those streets.
But maybe I'm not making myself plain enough. I guess all I'm saying is that on that list that you gave at the community meeting, those streets was already saying, okay, these are the streets we're going to do this year.
Correct.
Okay, Combs and what's the other street?
Lynn
was not on that list at the time. Okay, so you had other streets on there. So are you adding them, or are you taking away some streets?
Those were actually the streets that were included in this program year. Lynn and Combs we did talk about that as well. We also talked about streets that had been paid from previous years that were in those cycles. So what we talked about during the meeting was streets that we had paid with CDBG dollars, and we talked about the 2 streets that we're getting ready to pave now that's in this funding cycle.
Right. There are streets that we pave that are not paved with CDBG dollars. They're paved with other dollars. And I think that's where the confusion is coming in. These 2 streets that are identified are being paved with CDBG money.
Correct.
So that list of streets you got, not all of them were probably for CDBGs.
Right.
These two are.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah,
Are these two streets, were they on the original CD, whatever?
Yes. Yes, we plan that as part of this funding cycle this year.
okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Al.
And the other question about the park and the assessment that's being done. Okay, now, and I'm not trying to rebuttal with you, Mr. Jackson, but the park is already there. So at the time that I guess they built the park, I guess I'm a little confused here that maybe some type of assessment or should have been done during that time, because now we have a park that we already know that sat on a landfill, okay? So somebody somewhere made a decision to put this park here without the assessment or environmental study done. And so a decision was made that the park is there. So I guess I'm a little confused as to now we want to sort of question additional. Expanding. Yeah, expanding it on the same land. So I'm trying to figure out why we need to do an assessment when the assessment should have been done.
Planning process.
Hold on just a second. Let's stay in order. Connie, are you asking Mr. Buston a question there? Would you like a response? Okay, is that what you were doing? I'm just making.
Yeah, I'm looking around the room, but yeah, whoever, yeah, Mr. Buster.
Why don't you reframe, why don't I let you reframe that question again? You want to ask him again?
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you understand the question? Do I need to ask it
Yeah,
again?
we don't believe, I mean, the type of landfill that this is the exact type of property that is normally parks or trails are built on. This is exactly the type of property that it would be built on. There's no need for Phase 2 assessment or I mean, we are not contemplating doing anything dangerous. This is standard. I mean, this was an inert landfill. Yes, there was probably, any inert landfill has some stuff that's in it, but from the engineering group, there's no need to do a level 1 or a level 2 assessment.
Is level 1 assessment done as a matter of routine on some projects like this?
Pretty much, in order to do anything like that, it is, but that's basically a very rudimentary assessment that's done.
And we're to presume that that happened during the soccer field construction?
Yes.
So there was no need, when y'all first put the park there was no need to do an assessment, right?
I don't know if one was done then or not. Again, that park has been there for a long time. But it is basically the type of property where you would put the type of facility that is there, a park, a trail, that type of thing. You wouldn't want to build houses there. Well, some people do, but you wouldn't.
Because it's houses over there, so, yeah, so it's already houses there.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, still in the citizens' open forum. Does anyone else like to address the council?
Good evening. My name is Jack Powell. I live on 735 South Gate Street, and I believe I belong in the Ward 6 with Bob Parsons. I want to say, not trying to go back on the agenda item, but I want to say, I believe it's right for what Steve did, also to try to deny unanimous consent, because July 23rd, most of all of everybody's pretty much gone home for like summer, and especially for me being a graduate from K Woods, I went there all 5 years, watched the little school grow up, he little boy. And also JF Drake, not going to say what happened. And also go by, because especially like being there, like also like we should push it back till August, because the city schools won't start back until August, like 10th, 11th, usually I think. And I think it's right, because let the city get the back end, let everybody read it, because I just, like right now, I just just now read this, and like, why should I vote for this, even I have no idea, like, what is this, like, will this affect my, like, future, like, even though I'm graduated already, like, for the kids down the road?
Yeah, it's going to be a great new building for those kids in Auburn to go to school in.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. It's going to affect the future of this community.
Yes, I'm just saying, because, like, I graduated from Kerry Woods from, I don't remember when, but, like, I also, like, now the question is, what are y'all gonna do with the old one? All the old stuff, tear it down too?
They've got a comprehensive plan here, and I believe that some of it will be saved and most of it will be gone, but it's a very old school. My children have just gone through there, and I can promise you that when they turn the heat on every day, it sounds like a spaceship's about to take off. So,
thank you, sir.
thank you. Appreciate your concern. Anyone else? Okay. We have a move to adjourn? We don't.
Resolutions, is there any other business?
So Jim, there's no window of opportunity for us to meet again tomorrow morning to reconsider this school vote? Based on.
We have to give 24 hours notice.
Give 24 hours notice. So there's not a way to continue this meeting till in the morning by not adjourning it tonight?
You would have to adjourn to call a special meeting.
You have to officially
Because,
adjourn one to call another one?
Right.
Okay.
Can we adjourn to, as a point of parliamentary inquiry, can we adjourn to a point specific and still meet the requirement to bring the issue back up? As a date specific?
That's, might be an option. That would be, I'm not sure. It is, if we had, you can table something to a date specific. I'm not sure about adjourning to a date specific.
And the other date we talking about, August the 13th?
Yes, that would be potential. Yes.
So we just don't have two choices of dates.
Well, that would be just the earliest date of the election for us to consider the vote in 2 weeks, for us to vote on it in 2 weeks. Is that correct, Jim?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
So I know that it's probably not the same for an ordinance, because really all we're doing is waiving the first reading, or waiving the right to go ahead and vote on it for the first reading versus waiting for the second reading. So when a majority votes on an item and wishes to bring it back up, they can do so by the second meeting, by the next meeting, within the next meeting. Are you following what I'm asking? So say I voted yes in the affirmative for something, and then I'm like, oh, I want to change my mind, and I'm the majority, I can request to have that come up.
You have to do that no later, I mean, the next meeting is where, if you waited longer than the next meeting, you could not bring it up. So yes, it would be at the next meeting.
Can we bring up this vote as for, in new business?
I mean, I don't see how you could. Again, the ordinance is such that, I mean, it's pretty clear that you either deny unanimous consent, which means carry it over till the next meeting, and the soonest we can have a next meeting would be 24 hours from now, just because of advertising requirements.
Unless we don't adjourn.
Pardon me?
Unless we don't adjourn, we just...
And because I still have a cold, my ears are kind of blocked up, so.
The confusion, can we not adjourn this meeting and meet, is there an ability to extend the meeting?
I don't believe that extending the meeting would help you, because again, the ordinance says at the meeting, unanimous consent can be denied, which carries it over to the next meeting. And so even if you extended the meeting, then you would never finish this meeting to carry it over.
Well, I think I'm just going to tell you like I see it. It's a shame and disgrace. This council can't agree to pass this school initiative tonight and vote on July 23rd, because there's not going to be but a handful of folks show up for this thing anyway. And it's not going to be, you know how much work they put into getting this ready to go? You know how long it takes, how hard that is? And we're delaying all that for 2 weeks. I'm sorry, folks. I don't see it. I don't see why we would deny a school initiative like this.
Megan did have a suggestion.
Sure.
We could advertise as the 23rd, even though you haven't picked the 23rd yet, but we could run the ad as the 23rd. Were you to come back at the meeting 2 weeks and say, no, the 23rd is not right, then we would have to run another ad saying that would be August
13th.
whatever.
Called meeting.
And she said we'd still have to have a called meeting, but it'd have to be after 24 hours of advertisement.
So we could have a special called meeting, say, today's Tuesday, Thursday morning,
Yes.
and at that special called meeting, we could decide and we could take a vote on this ordinance and a date for this ordinance, and in the meantime, it can still be publicized as it needs to be.
So tomorrow,
Currently.
we would give it to the newspapers as the 23rd. And then if that changes, then we would re-advertise for August whatever. I'm going to have to make sure that legally, I'll address this with Rod Cantor, our legal counsel out of Birmingham, but I believe that's probably...
We can always cancel a special.
Hold on just a second. Hold on, let's stay in order here. I don't know who was first, who spoke first down
Well, I
here.
mean, I've already asked, go ahead.
Okay.
So let me just recap this whole deal. So we've got a recommendation from the school system, the university, and the public school system that says that this is a good date to vote.
Yes.
We've got the ability for people, no one's going to be disenfranchised, correct? Because we're going to have the ability for either absentee ballots or come to the actual location on the 23rd. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And these funds are this is going to be all the steps that go into this to secure funding and to use the money for our children, for our schools. But we're going to deny the ability to do that tonight. I think that is one of the most irresponsible things that we could do as council.
I agree.
I mean, I cannot imagine another issue when everyone has the ability to vote that we're going to arbitrarily delay a vote on funds for our school system. It's our pride and joy in this community, is our schools.
Well, I was thinking that even with the call meeting, is the call meeting public?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we having a public, we can call the meeting now and just go ahead and discuss this and vote. We can't do that?
We can't
No,
do
I
that.
mean,
You have
we
to
can have our
advertise 24 hours. You have to advertise.
We have to advertise the fact that we having a call meeting?
Unless it's an emergency in the event.
Okay, so we don't need to call it a call meeting. Can we just discuss it?
I wish, but we have to,
All right, so Jim, so tonight, our only option is to adjourn this meeting, correct?
I believe so, and if council wishes, again, as a group, if council wishes, we will advertise as the 23rd. I will get with legal counsel to make sure that we have that we can do this as a called meeting on Thursday or Friday or whenever. We will advertise it, make sure we have 24 hours to advertise it, at which time we'll come back. We'll have one item on the agenda, which is the second reading of this ordinance.
so while we're in other business, do we need to go ahead and set that date and time of a special meeting, should the council agree to that?
If you'd like to, it has to be at least later than 24 hours from today. So if you'd like to set the
Gotta be
date for
Thursday.
Thursday, would be fine.
We could request a special meeting on Thursday morning.
So we're going to get a special meeting. We're going to get a legal opinion from attorney. We're going to spend the money on another announcement of a meeting. No one's going to lose the ability to vote. And we have a good date that we've been recommended by our experts. That's what the action of this council is going to do tonight.
That's where we are. So
Fantastic.
we can,
If I may just interject for a second, Mr. Mayor.
yes, sir.
The terms disgrace and irresponsible, I think they're a little large for what this is. There's a balance to all of this. My 3 children go to Auburn City schools. I have a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, and a guy in kindergarten. And at the same time, we are a community where people would like the opportunity to vote at an appointed time that's convenient to them. And it's not all about us trying to be irresponsible or outrageous. From my position, as a representative of many constituents who've come to me and said, hey, opportunities, I'm denied, I'm not able to conveniently vote when I'm on summer break because I'm out of town, I've left town early, I'm coming back right on the deadline to start school, and I think it's just reasonable to offer all our citizens the opportunity to vote at their convenience. And I understand the fact that it's going to be a low turnout. It's going to be a low turnout either way, but still the principle of the matter for me is we've given everybody in our city an opportunity to vote at their convenience. And I don't believe that the sky will fall by waiting a couple of weeks.
You know, our school system is so important to this community, and it's so important to the fabric of this community. It's so important to all the things that are great about our community, and certainly that drives passion. And so when you talk about our schools and you talk about our children, people are passionate about it, and that's what you've heard from the dais here tonight, and that's why we're wringing our hands trying to figure out a path on this issue. It's because we're passionate about our school system, we're passionate about our kids' future. So, you know, we've all got strong feelings of that. All of us have been in and around our school system as parents or as students, and it means a lot to us. Auburn City Schools is special. So it's okay that we're passionate. Just gotta
Well,
remember to be
it's not even, forgive me, and we're going to belabor a point, obviously.
That's fine.
Good point to belabor.
I agree. And my issue is not even the, obviously, the care that we all have for our city schools. It's the care that I have for the process that went into determining July 23rd and the effort that went into vetting different stakeholders in that date in particular. And even if we meet in 24 hours, we're going to arbitrarily, without consulting those same people, throw a date out there that may or may not be better. And I just don't think that anyone sitting on this dais trumps the efforts that went into staff and other stakeholders in stating a date for an election, just because we think one may be better than the other.
I do have a question, and it may be a question for the finance department, but Jim, does this, once we approve a date, is that when they can go to market for a bond rating, or has a bond rating already been?
No, we once the date is approved, then we start all the process. Well, I mean, we're assuming a date is going to be approved, so we are doing some of the process, but until a date is approved, we can't actually move forward with the process of getting the bonds rated, getting them advertised, and getting them set for what they're going to be, and then getting them sold. So it is a process. Right now, the funding that we are doing, this is costing us money. And right now, we are fronting that money. When the bonds are sold, we pay ourselves back. So the longer we wait, and we have a good cash flow, so this is not an issue. If we were to wait too long, the cash flow might become an issue. But right now, our cash flow is good, so we have no issue with fronting this money until the bond can be sold to pay us back.
How often do we have these votes?
I'm sorry?
How often do we have these votes, these special?
Every 4 or 5 years, somewhere around that. It just depends on how fast we pay down the previous bond and how much money is in that fund to allow us to then go out for another bond, and what the projects are and how much the projects are going to cost. If this was probably a $100 million project, we wouldn't be going out right now, but it's a $50 million project, 40-some million. There's enough capacity in the bond to go out, or in the fund to go out for that bond.
Is this vote unusual?
Is this a what?
Vote unusual? Is this unusual in the course of business of the city of Auburn?
No, and it's normally, this vote can be at different times. It's not necessarily always in the summer. It just depends on how it falls and when something needs to go to bond.
But it's necessary.
It is necessary.
Yeah, we have to, these.
Yes, it's absolutely necessary. Otherwise, we're going to, we can't do the projects. Or the Auburn City Schools won't be able to do the projects.
So Jim, let me just wrap up where I think we are. So we've got to structurally, we've got to adjourn tonight's vote. If we wanted to have a specially called meeting, we have to do that later than 24 hours from now. So Thursday morning would be the earliest we could do that, correct? And that would give the city time to advertise that. And we could have a specially called meeting on Thursday to consider the second reading of this ordinance, since it was denied unanimous consent, correct? Or would be considering the first reading since?
No, this would be the second reading of that ordinance.
Okay, and so it would be a majority vote at that point in time, correct?
Yes.
And there's a possibility that the same date, the voting date of July the 23rd could be maintained if we do that in a certain window of time. Is that correct?
Yes.
That we understand?
Our plan, again, unless council tells us differently, would be tomorrow to tell the newspapers it's July 23rd. If on Thursday you all decide it's not July 23rd, then we would have to re-advertise to August, whatever.
What's the cost of re-advertising? Do you know the cost? I mean, you probably know an estimate.
I don't know. Do you know what a cost of advertising is? We have one of our newspaper people here. She might be able to tell us. About $1,000.
Okay, so with the majority of the council's wishes that we'll allow Mr. Buston to work on this in the morning, communicate to us about potentially having a meeting on Thursday. I would encourage everybody to be looking at their calendars and seeing when you're available Thursday morning. I doubt there's going to be a perfect time for 9 people, so please be flexible on Thursday morning if that's what we potentially do, okay? Is that correct?
Right. It would, and as this is an ordinance, it does require 5 votes to pass.
Sure.
So if only 6 people showed up, it would still require 5 votes to pass.
It's not a majority, it's 5 votes. Okay, thank you for clarifying that, Jim. Okay. Do I have a move to adjourn?
So moved.
We adjourn.